You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 166, Adopting an and mindset to transform your business. A raw look behind the scenes with LuAnn Nigara. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I got to tell you, you are in for a very special episode, an episode that I wasn't expecting to bring to you, but once it was recorded, and you'll know what I mean in a second, I absolutely knew I needed to bring it to you. So here's what happened. LuAnn Nigara is a client of mine, and I'm going to share with you who she is and how we met shortly. But this episode is special because I was actually a guest on her podcast where we were talking about what it was really like to be coached on productivity. And I don't mean what was it like the features and it's, we meet this time and do this. I mean like a raw look at the challenges, the beliefs, the mindsets that she overcame. What that process looked like. I honestly, when we were done recording, I was like, that was the most honest conversation about what really happens behind the scenes with coaching I have ever experienced. And I really wanted you to listen to it because I wanted you to hear how LuAnn navigated breaking self-limiting beliefs and also taking strategic action once those beliefs were challenged. I want you to hear that it wasn't a straight line from where she was at to where she was going, that there was tons of ups and downs, but breaking through those incrementally and sticking to wanting to make improvements with her time management, because you'll hear in the episode why that matters so much to her and how that has had a positive impact on her business and life. This interview is special because I didn't think I would be bringing it to you. We actually created this episode for her podcast, A Well-Designed Business. And once we were done recording, I asked for permission to re-air it on my podcast. So that's what you're going to hear in just a few moments, is her and I having a conversation for her audience, pulling back the curtains on what it really takes to make big changes with it regards to your time management. And the Cliff Notes version of what those big changes are is having major mindset breakthroughs coupled with strategy and what that balance looks like. And when I say mindset, I don't mean just saying, oh, I have the power to take back my time. No, this is very strongly held beliefs that LuAnn at her core believed was true until she didn't. And that's why this episode is so powerful, is because she's sharing what that journey looked like of first acknowledging that something that she believed was so true was not true. And then what was that process of unraveling that strongly held truth. And once unraveled and seeing it different, what action was she willing to take to really make huge, huge changes in her business and life? All right, so let me introduce LuAnn. LuAnn began her career more than 30 years ago as the co-owner of Window Works, an award-winning window treatments and awning retailer in Livingston, New Jersey. She is also the host of the top-rated interior design podcast, A Well-Designed Business. Her podcast was recently named in Architectural Digest as one of the top 10 podcasts listened to by designers. It is also the definitive resource for interior design professionals interested in operating a profitable business. LuAnn is a sought-after speaker and author of several books, including her first book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business. Her second book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts, as well as her upcoming book that I'm also a co-author in, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2. And that book is coming out in November, and I will be sure to share with you on how to get that in November. I also thought it would be really cool to share with you how we met and what our relationship has been, just to give some context into what is going on in this episode. A couple years ago, I had hired a company to pitch me on different podcasts. As many of you know that have listened to the podcast, one of my priority or main ways that I get marketing and visibility is to get interviewed on other people's podcasts. So I didn't know LuAnn at all. I just showed up to be interviewed. And you can go back and listen to that interview where she interviewed me in episode 385 on A Well-Designed Business. On that podcast, what she said was that it literally hit her between the eyes, that there was things that I said around time management and productivity that she hadn't heard in that way before, and it really, really resonated with her. Next, I actually invited her on my podcast because there was things that she said in that interview that I thought would be incredibly valuable to my listeners. And you can go back and listen to that podcast, episode 92, on my podcast, Productivity Straight Talk. After those 2 episodes, we stayed in touch, and sometime later, she asked me to be a co-author in her book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2. I, of course, said yes, and that was an incredible journey and experience to work with her in that way. And then about 7 to 8 months ago, she actually became a client of mine where I formally coached her like a one-on-one client. And that is where this interview takes off from, is what was that journey of working together during the last 7 to 8 months. And now, let's get to the straight talk.
Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, Amber. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Oh, I'm so excited for another chat with you today for your audience.
I am too. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that not only have you been on the show before and that I've been on your show, which both were amazing experiences for me, that you are one of the co-authors in the next book. It's called A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2 that's coming out this November 2020. So I'm so excited to have you in this book with the rest of us, Amber.
Oh, it is my honor. It's been such a great opportunity to do this project with you.
Yes. So here's another project that you've been doing with me. You have, and I would say we got to call it a project because Amber, as you know, is a productivity expert. And if you know me, there's a saying called LuAnn's World. And this is LuAnn's World where, at WindowWorks, Amber, I don't even know if I've told you this, but at WindowWorks, I found out recently, after many, many years of running this business, that they call me the hurricane. Because we have cameras all over our parking lot and our doors. And so when you look up into the camera, you can see who's coming. And I recently learned that what happens when I'm approaching, they say, oh, the hurricane's here.
That is hilarious. And to find out they had been saying that for years before you knew, right?
Yes. Like I had no idea. And so the thing is, you've had quite a project on your hands these last 7 or 8 months, because you have been coaching me in productivity, because I am... Look, I think we would agree that I'm a person that gets a heck of a lot done in a day. But when I think about your strategy of working in your most productive, your high return, your high yield buckets, my friend Madeline McRae talks about, are you doing a $10 an hour job, a $100 an hour job, or a $1,000 an hour job, or a $10,000 an hour job? That I have, as I've built this podcast, held to some beliefs that I thought why don't you tell them how crazy I've been the last 8 months? How about that?
LuAnn, first of all, I will let you use the word project. I would not say that. I would say that you are an ideal client. I have yet to have a client come to me that doesn't say something like, I bet I'm like the worst you've seen. I mean, have you ever worked with anyone like me? Like some version of that? And the answer is yes, and not to normalize it, but this is my unique, specialized skill. Like this is exactly who I serve. Those people who are successful and they want to be more successful, and it's kind of like they want to do it more on purpose. They want to be more productive. They want to be more effective with their time. But with that comes a lot of chaos sometimes when we're running businesses such as your level. And so when you came to me, you said, I bet I'm going to be your most difficult client, right? And I would not say that, but I would say that it was a process to unravel some really, really strong beliefs that you had about your business and about yourself that were bottlenecking you from really being in your zone of genius more often and living a life that allowed you more freedom, because you are such a hard worker. Like you will do anything to hit your deadlines, to serve your audience, to do all the things that you're passionate about. But when we were working together, it was like, how can you do all of that and still have downtime and still have time to, go running and exercise? Because I really believe that it can be an and. And so that was really what our goal was, is to create more and in your business and life.
Yes, I remember your saying in the beginning in your intake process and those first couple of sessions, and we were doing a little autopsy of my life pre-podcast and post-podcast. And the dramatic change in my personal life and my personal freedom was that. It was just dramatic. I used to be a person that, without exception, exercised 6 days a week. It was non-negotiable. It was non-debatable. It would be the type of thing where I don't care if I had worked all day Saturday or spent all day Saturday doing something for my children, with my husband, with our friends, whatever it was. And I would get back at 6 o'clock at night and we might have 7:30 dinner plans. I would hop on my treadmill for 2.5 quick, miles, get a shower and be ready. It was non-negotiable, all the way to getting up early and having an hour and a half to go to a yoga class. And now every moment that was that quick 35 minutes or that quick hour was, oh, I have to edit a show. Oh, I have to do the show notes. Oh, I have to write an intro, outro. Oh, I have to call a sponsor. Oh, I have to do this. It just sucked it all up. And my problem was that it went on for 4 years because I loved it, because I enjoyed it, because I could see that something was happening here, and I was creating relationships, and I was getting the juice. I was getting the emails every single week. Listening to your guests has changed my business. And so that was that little, almost like this snaky, twisty, knotty ball that on one hand, I objectively had much of my personal downtime and recreational and fun activities pulled out of my life, but they were replaced with something that was also extremely gratifying, except that I did not like that I was getting, chubby and soft. I did not like that part.
Right. So the session that you're talking about is that when I first work with a client, we do an onboarding. You called it an autopsy. That could be true too. But essentially what I'm doing is getting a deep dive and asking a lot of questions to finding out really why you would want to make any changes in your business with regards to how you're investing your time and energy and attention. And what you're explaining is that I was diving deep into not just solving for time management and productivity concerns to get more out of your business, but really how can we also reclaim the balance that you desire of exercising, having, downtime with your husband more often, and still growing the business. And it was really important to me to hear that it was a crucial aspect of your life that you really missed, and you've now since normalized that was put to the side in pursuit of serving your business and your audience and those people. And so I was challenging you right out of the gate, in fact, of no, what boundary can we hold, no matter what, that would show that you're making progress in creating that balance again, whatever that means to you.
You know what I just heard in there? And I remember having the aha moment when you said it to me, that by the time I came to work with you, I had normalized a 7-day a week, anywhere from weekdays 10 to 14 hours and weekends 8 to 10 hours. I had normalized that as my life, that working would be within those parameters. And I remember when you said, I was like, oh, I'm not just doing it because I needed to do it today. This has been going on for 4 solid years. This is now my normal, right? Right. That was a mind blower to me, because I was just like, oh, so if this is your normal, this isn't your normal for a week. This is your normal for 4 years. Is this what you're going to do for the next 24 years? You're nuts, lady. You'll collapse.
Right. Yeah. And asking yourself, is that sustainable long term? And if you took a step back from your business and you could really, really dream for what you wanted it to be, can it be reaching your goals and having Sunday off? And, maybe just working a couple hours on Saturday. I think it's important to say to the listeners is that we didn't go in and say, okay, you're down to a 40-hour week. It does not happen that way. It cannot happen that way. We're not trying to cripple the business. Right. What we're doing is setting a plan for what we are eventually going to get to. And to do that, now insert strategy after strategy after strategy and action after action to make it possible that you can wean back your hours, throw in more exercise and downtime, and still grow the business. So once we determined that that wasn't a normal that you wanted to continue with for the next 24 years or even 5 years, we needed to create a plan of how do we create that space and also make sure your business is served and your clients and your listeners are all served at the highest level. Mm-hmm. So it's, again, that and factor. Right. Oftentimes we look at our businesses and our lives of either or. I had to give up my Saturday and Sunday to reach this level or to serve or to hit this deadline. And I was challenging your thinking right up front to say, what if it's an and? What would that look like?
Right. And the thing about it is, to your point, the process was so much more than just simply saying, LuAnn, get it done Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like the rest of the world, and stop. Because if you had ever approached me like that, I would have been, I would have, okay, really? Sorry. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just not possible. Yeah. Right. And but it was a continual, every single week meeting. And really, I really felt like for me, we hadn't talked about it from this exact point, but I really feel like for me, it was having you constantly challenge me on why I would say that this was the way it would have to be done. And the conversation of, if you were going to do it that way, how else would it be done? And so it was interesting. And I did share on a podcast earlier, a few months back, how we did work, like, you know how much I hate email. I cannot stand email. I hate it. Can I tell you it again? I hate it. All right. I really do hate it. I not only do I hate it because there are so many, and I hate it because I will be writing a piece or creating information for the show, and I need to go look something up that I know is in an email. And I'm on a roll, and I go to that email, and the next thing I know, it's 40 minutes later because, oh, there came an email from a sponsor, or look at that email from a guest. That's so sweet. Like, I can't just not answer that email, right? And so I would get down this rabbit hole. And then as we worked, you would say to me, you can't. This is not the time for this. If you put the time aside for writing, then you've got to write. And then it was the other way, because then I would be like, hey, I can't do this now. But then I would wake up, and be looking for some email 3 weeks later and find that heartfelt email from a listener from 3 weeks before that in the moment I was like, I can't answer this now. Amber said, keep to writing. But then I would forget about it. I would get like, ah!
Right. But then, so just to pull back the curtain on coaching, so you executed on a strategy, and then you tried the strategy, and then there was a glitch in the strategy, meaning no strategy comes out of the gate perfect. So then you gave me the feedback of, okay, well, no, now I'm missing emails because I'm not staying on them regularly. Now we problem solve for that and tweak the strategy. And eventually you came to batching out specific types of emails for specific times so that you're utilizing and leveraging batching and the same energy type. But I think it's really important to hear that oftentimes we employ these strategies with time management and productivity and think, oh, if they didn't work, just dump it. Right?
Right.
Because you could have just dumped that strategy and gone back to your old way, which was just checking in real time, because that reached the goal of not missing emails for 3 weeks. But that wasn't in alignment, going back to the old way, with how do we reclaim more blocks of focused time for you to do your deep work.
And that is the truth of it. See, that is the magic of having the ability or the gift of working with someone who knows their stuff and is in their superpower. Because you're exactly right. If it had been a simple strategy that I heard on a podcast of, hey, if you set time aside for writing, don't get involved in emails. And that happened. And like you said, 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh my goodness, I missed 2 sponsor emails, 3 wonderful guest emails, and, 1 speaking engagement proposition. I would have abandoned it. If I was on my own devices, I would have said, that's it. Anytime I see an email, I got to figure it out. But because I brought it back to you and complained about it, literally is what I did. I'm like, this isn't going to work because this happened. Yeah. Right? Then you said, okay, batch them. And I'm just going to fast forward, because then we did batch. I said to Lisa, put the things that are important that I have to do in a single, place, and put it in my calendar to deal with it. But you see, what was interesting is to fast forward through that didn't work either. It did work a little bit, but it didn't work really well. You know why? Because then I came to it, and here she would put in my calendar, say 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., handle emails. And now we have 10 days of emails that have been gathering. And here's what would happen. I would open an email. One would be, hey, I'm interested in being on your show, and I have a great coastal vibe design technique. And I'm just like, right, because I don't talk about coastal vibe. I don't talk about any vibe. This is a bad pitch, right? I would get aggravated. I'd be like, rah, like this. Then the next email was, LuAnn, we love your show and we think we want to sponsor you. What does that look like? Then the next email. And what would happen is, for me personally, in that moment, I couldn't find a groove again, because it was the constant changing gears. Oh, this one I've got to position myself and pitch myself back to the sponsor. The next email is, I have to gently and kindly, with respect, tell this person, I don't care what your design style is, and if you want to teach me something about business, I'd be happy to talk to you. And then the third one was, yes, let's take this speaking engagement to the next level. And I couldn't change gears. And right. So what would happen is, 8 to 11, by 8:30, I'd be like, later. I'm out.
Fried.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so then we took it to the next level and it was like, okay, 8 to 9 is sponsor pitches. 9 to 10 is wonderful emails from listeners. 10 to 11 is what we call dumb ass PR pitches.
Right. And so now you're able to utilize your flow, and your assistant's able to sort and filter for you, so you don't need to think about it. So you're getting in and out a lot quicker.
That's right. She does the pre-sorting and puts them in these little things. And I just have to, and she even takes it so far as to put the link in my calendar. So I just click on it and it opens and there they are. So it really was. Now this is weeks, this process, because to your point, when you're working with someone like yourself that has many, many options, sees many, many different ways to be productive, it is that value of, we try one way, okay, it didn't work for you, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. What worked, what didn't work, okay, move into this. And I have to say that has been my number one experience in these last 8 months of being coached by you, is that no matter how often I felt like, well, that didn't work. You know what I mean? I'm like, and then you have your day before questionnaire and you're like, how's your productivity? I'm like, so. You know, and I would think, she can't fix me. I'm broken. And then like all of a sudden, another aha moment, right? And it's always that evolution. And so, but then there was a moment, Amber, that you realized that the bigger challenge of my situation was not even that day-to-day, in the weeds. It was the vision and the strategy for building the podcast, because it is like, I remember when we built WindowWorks, it was a 24-hour thing and it was a 7-day-a-week thing, and I worked my fanny off. And so I came from that mindset of, this is startup. You're going to do everything and anything that you have to do to get this baby out the gate and running on its own. And there'll be a time, just like WindowWorks, where you will have people in place that handle critical functions for you, but you're not there yet, sweetie. You're not there yet. And you kept saying to me, well, when do you get there? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm not there yet. Right?
Right, exactly. I want to just back up really quick, because something you said is like, I'm about your productivity and check-in and broken, is like, this is my love. Like, this is literally what I think I was put on this earth to do, is help business owners not feel broken. Like, this is a skill set that can be learned, and then partnering with the strategy with someone that thinks differently than you. So if we're putting any given situation in the middle of you and I, we are two smart ladies, right? And so you're coming to the table with your perspective and what needs to happen. And then I come in and just ask different questions to look at the same situation from a different angle. And that's what we were doing with everything that you were doing on a recurring basis in your business that was taking a lot of time. And the first place we started was obviously the podcast, because as if you weren't doing enough episodes during this whole time when we're talking about how to cut back time, you add another episode a week. And so I said, yes, so you're coming to the table saying strategically and serving my audience, and all of that was all yeses. And so now we had to say, how do we still create more efficiency with LuAnn's time and serve even at a higher level, which is what you've done in the last few months by adding an additional episode to each week.
Right. And that was the thing where I'm saying is, when we started to get to that higher level, what I mean is that you started just saying to me, where are you spending your highest value activities, right? What are your highest value activities? And also, where are you spending your time? And we started to track my time, just like a designer tracks their time so that they can, come up with a great flat fee, that they know that this is what it takes them to do. And what happened is I had what I thought was my highest value activities was also my highest time spent not all of them, but in the highest value was also the things that were taking the longest time. And so that was fine. That made sense to me. But then you challenged me on, in the highest value activities that take the most time, did I have to be the one to do it? And that's when I was like, what? Of course I do. Like, how can anybody else do that? Like, no way, I have to do that. And the number one thing that we discussed was writing the intro, outro for the podcast, right? We had long discussions about this. And I'll share the story that I had said to you, which was my fortification for, I have got to be the one to do this. And I don't care if it takes me 18 hours a week. I've got to be the one to do this. And the thing is that there was a point in about, I would say 8, 9, 10 months into the podcast, and it was rolling. And I did start out with 3 episodes. And after, I think a year and a half or 2, I went back down to 2 episodes. And now, of course, I'm back to 3. But there was a point, because then I had no support. I didn't have Nicole Heimer. I did not have Christy Rocha. I did not have Lisa, Godet. I did not have a team. It was LuAnn and LuAnn and LuAnn. And I got to this point where I recognized, oh my goodness, the time that I spend on the intro, outro, it's hours. I listen to the show. I first of all, I record the show. I take 2 pages of notes. Then I listen to the show again and I take another page of notes. Then I sit down and I write and I think, and I'm like, what is the big lesson, and how do I want to relate that to other episodes, and how do I want to relate that to my own life, and how do I want to relate that to something I heard, by a bird that walked by me yesterday, right? And then trying to write these intro outros. And I said, this is where you're spending your time. There are 9 billion podcasts out there, and they all say the intro, outro, all within the show. That's it. You're switching. You're just going to say, hi, this is my guest. You want to know the stuff about her? Go to the website. I don't know what to tell you, right? And I don't know what we're going to talk about, but it's going to be great. And then when it's done, just say thanks so much and goodbye. And Amber, I said to you, you know how the universe talks to you. The universe sends you messages. Literally 3 times in the same week that I had decided I was abandoning the intro, outro, 3 different ways a listener made it known to me. 3 different listeners made it known to me that the intro, outro was one of the most important aspects of the podcast. One was on an iTunes review, one was in an email that came in, and one was at a live event. And each of them said the same thing in a different way, with that point that it was so important to them and why it was important, and each had different reasons. And I remember I left that live event, I got on the plane and I said, okay, universe, I'm not that dumb. 2 or 1 probably would have done the trick, but all 3, I'm listening. And ever since then, it has been my belief that even though it takes me 2 to 4 hours every show to do the intro, outro, because I am so emotionally attached to it that I could not give that to anybody. And you said, and when do you do that mostly? I said Saturdays and Sundays. And you said, there you go, lady. Right?
Right. I love that you shared that deep story of how the belief evolved and you were affirmed in that belief. So we always look for positive proof on the belief we already hold. So you knew that this was your secret sauce. Imagine, for those of you that are listening, I'm a coach coming into her business, which is her baby. She's raised it. Not only has she raised her business, but this is her secret special sauce, is doing intros and outros to the podcast. And I'm coming in saying, if you want to hold this, you want to exercise, you want more time with your husband, you want downtime, and you want to take your business to the next level, we're not moving forward until we evaluate your special secret sauce. And I'm not saying make it go away. I'm saying, how do we get there in a different way? And that was the conversations over several sessions of saying, I'm not saying to reduce the value or that the intro and outro should look any different. I'm just saying, how can we reclaim your weekends? How can we reclaim 2 to 4 hours times 3 episodes a week? That is massive amount of time. Now, this is LuAnn's highest value activity, and you guys will hear all about this in the book where I break down how to find your highest value activity. So make sure you definitely, go grab the book when it comes out in November. But this is where business owners really get tripped up, is that they blanket the whole activity and all the pieces under their bucket. So this bucket for LuAnn is marketing and visibility. So she's working in her highest value so she can rationalize and justify while all these activities is her showing up her best in her business. Why that's true, the bigger your business gets and the more demand on your time, you've got to be so ruthless with the pieces you keep in the marketing and visibility bucket, and then look at how can you still invest in that bucket in your business, but outsource, delegate, and ask for help. And so that's where we're at here with LuAnn, is me continually challenging her. Now, behind the scenes, I know that there's no one else that has LuAnn's voice, her spin, how she knows you, the listener. Like, that is her special sauce. There's no one else that can ever take that place. But can the intro and outros get written still, so that she gets 2 to 4 hours? And so that's the question we held between the two of us for quite some time, right, LuAnn?
For a long, long time, because I kept saying, no. No. Yeah. I just could not see it. And the thing is, I don't know if you remember, but I made a half, in the moment, it was not a half-hearted attempt. There was nothing, I shouldn't say a half-hearted attempt, because it was nothing half-hearted about it, but I would say it was a less than committed attempt in this sense, that there is a woman, and if you guys need help with writing, her name is Design Writer Deb. She will be on, at this point we're recording, maybe has been on, coming on. The point is that Design Writer Deb and I had met each other through Instagram. And so this was my first attempt. And when I say, I was like, okay, Amber, okay. You want me to try doing this? Basically, the inside voice was, okay, Amber, you want me to try that? This is crazy. This is ridiculous. No one can write this. This is intimate between me and my listener. But you know what? I'm paying you good money. It's ridiculous. I can't stand the yeah, but people when they pay me and they say yeah, but. So I'm like, LuAnn, go do what she says. Go see if somebody can write your intro, outro. So I reach out to Design Writer Deb, and we have a great conversation, and she says, I'm going to help you. But I cripple her efforts. This is hindsight. I cripple her efforts by placing a less than going rate amount of money that I'm willing to pay to get it done to her when she goes to search. And so she says to me, well, we're probably going to have to look for a junior writer at that rate. And I said, yeah, well, that's what it is. And so she's unsuccessful, right? Because Design Writer Deb listens to the show. She knows the quality that I need and want. She wants that same quality, and she can't find somebody that she can vet that can do that quality at the rate that I'm at. So now I come back to Amber and I'm like, see, it won't work.
That's right.
We go many more months, right? We go many more months. Other things happen. I have, practically, I have major highs and major lows on what's happening in my day and my time. And then finally you look at me again and you said, you know where the hours are. You know this is the first place that we can find this chunk, because now it's not just a matter of I want time to do yoga. Now I want time because I'm looking at the next level of the business, and I'm saying to you, I want to do LuAnn Live like no one's ever done it before. I want to do this book launch like no one's ever done it before. I'm launching courses, and I'm going to teach designers the things, the business education that they don't get in the university. I'm bringing this to them. I got a lot of things to do. And you're saying, oh, so wait, we're adding like another 30 hours to your week at this point? I'm like, somehow, some way, right? And so
the math doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, I literally need to say, math does not compute. Like,
see, and I don't know that.
More time.
In my math, it does, right? But so now you really like, this is, we revisit this again months, weeks later. And you just said to me, I want to remind you of this huge space where you have time that you can find. And so I went back to Design Writer Deb and I said, okay, tell me why it didn't work the first time. Was it because I wouldn't pay enough money, or you couldn't find anybody? And she said it was a little of both. And I said, what if you just found somebody and you told me what they were worth? Get me the people. Get me. I want this. I want this to happen. I won't believe it till I see it, but I'm hopeful and I want it. And you name the price on what I should pay them. You're a professional in the field. I want the best. And my goodness, if she didn't find them, right?
Right.
It's
and what's interesting, LuAnn, so let's pause there for a second because I'm thinking you put this lower amount, right? Which is ironic because you would value your own time probably massively quadruple. And you should be getting double time because it's a Saturday and Sunday, right?
Right.
So if we thought, how much is your time worth, LuAnn, and it's double time because it's Saturday and Sunday, like, even if you pay just a portion of that, you could pay a writer really, really well for their value, but you were still wrapping your head around, like, could this really work? It was almost like, Amber, I'm going to do this just so you'd stop asking. And then I don't really want to spend that much money to prove to you it didn't work. And then you go back and you're like, okay, so if this was a replacement, they need to be an expert in their field, and I'm going to pay them as an expert.
That's exactly right. And it became the type of thing where I still didn't know if it would work. And I still was, but I was willing to try it now. And I was willing to recognize, as you said in the beginning of the show, that I was the bottleneck. And when we started talking in terms of what you just said, paying an expert in their field to do what they are most put on this planet to do. So, and I have my daughter, Christy, who is my brand manager. I have myself, that we both know my voice. And I thought, LuAnn, you take 2 full pages of notes. You highlight things, you circle things. You are giving a qualified, experienced writer the cheat sheet to what you think is important. You're not going to rip your audience off of that process. They're still going to know what you think is the lesson in this. It's not like I'm going to talk the show and never hear it again. I'm still doing my stuff there, right? And what happened was, Amber, about that time, when I finally went back to Deb and I said, find me a professional at whatever professional rate it should be. I said, just surprise me when you find them. I'll let you know then if I think it's worth it or not, right? I was just like, just no handcuffs, right? That was the approach I took. And what happened was I also recently was having a conversation with an interior designer on the podcast who runs a large firm. And, it wasn't that I hadn't heard this 50,000 times in 600 episodes, but this day I heard it so clearly. I said to her, how do you do it when you have multiple teams working under you? Do they have complete carte blanche to do whatever design they want and you don't even see some of the projects, or is your hand touch everything? And that principal said to me, I am involved in the beginning. I am the one that approves if we're working with the client or not. I am the one that decides if we're taking the project or not. Then I look at the 5 or 6 senior designers that I have on my team. I align them with the personality of the client. I align them with the project and their expertise. And then they work with their entire team, the junior and the people under them, to create the plan. But it comes back to me for tweaking. I edit. I look at it. There isn't anything that leaves this office that I have not approved. And I have my design standards. This is the way we do tile and grout. This is the way we do this. And I just was like listening to the conversation and thinking, OMG. Like, this is no different than a senior designer or a principal designer that wants to scale her firm or his firm. They cannot do 10 projects in 3 months if they don't put some trust and faith, teach, show, share, but with a competent professional, and then maintain the design, vision, and ultimate deliverable by having their hand on the review process and the edit process. And I said, oh, right. Yes, you could do that, couldn't you? You could do the interview. You could call out in your notes everything that's important. They could listen to the interview. They could write it. Then you could revise and tweak before you present it to your clients, which are your listeners. It was just an amazing, amazing aha moment for me.
Right. Because every time you heard that strategy, this is what many of us do is we hear a strategy, we shake our head yes as we're listening, like, yeah, great strategy. And then we don't connect the dots in our own businesses until we're ready. And that's what you were doing is you were already contemplating and thinking what was possible with a little nudge from me. And you were in that space where you were able to connect your dots for you and hear that.
It's exactly right.
When you say, that you get the final approval and tweaking, as a CEO or as a principal designer, you're in the space of preserving your bandwidth. So you need to preserve not just your time, but your mental energy. And the mental energy that it takes to review and veto something is so much less. And so now you're giving yourself that it's green lighted. Once they're trained up, it's going down the path of yes, 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 yes. You're reviewing it and you step in only when you have to veto the yes and say that's a no. I actually don't agree with that language or I don't agree with that selection. That is so much less energy. And then at the end, together with your team, you're getting that final result. And for you, in this example of connecting the dots, is that my guess is that the principal designer would then be the one delivering the final. So she or he comes in at the beginning, the team comes in, and then at the end, you're doing the same thing. You're interviewing the guest. It goes to the writer, and then you're the one recording the intro and outro. Like, there is no possible way that it's getting to your listeners without you having reviewed with a fine-tooth comb of what's actually being said, because you're the one saying it.
Absolutely.
So, perfect analogy and example to everyday business of how to utilize this.
It's so true. And it really was a major epiphany for me, because when we think of some of the luxury firms that we have interviewed over the years for interior design, from Barclay Butera, who has 26 interior designers working for him, right? Nate Berkus, he's got a team that works in Chicago, and he said on the show, yes, the team led by his, senior designer does most of the actual in the weeds stuff, but he is there to final approve and edit, and all the way to Laura Umansky. And we have many, many examples of this. And so when that light bulb went off, I said, oh, when these design firms reach these levels of success, their vision isn't compromised. The design deliverable is not less than. It maintains that high quality because the principal has moved to working in their zone of genius and working on the business and making all of the moving parts happen, but comes back to monitor that quality output so that the product that leaves the firm with their name on it is 100% their vision and their values, right? And so, and that's the same thing. And I knew, even though I had the expectation that I would have to tweak it, that internally we called it LuAnn it. I would have to LuAnn it, right? But the truth of the matter is that the other really amazing thing happened is when Deb was able to go out, and who I know had my back so much. She loves the show. She and I are friends, and she was not going to phone it in on this search, right? And when she had the ability to go out and find the best people for the job, then she delivered the best people for the job. And the amount of tweaking to LuAnn it, it's negligible compared to what I was doing. And so I imagine it's the same with the principal when you really, really have enunciated your values. And so interestingly, we had a mastermind over the summer with 2 million plus design firms, and many of them had already what they call their standards book. And I mentioned it a few moments ago. And so, for instance, there are firms, like I know Sandra Funk said to me, I always want in her standards book, she always wants the tile and the stone to be natural. Like she's not, if you're a junior designer and you're going to specify a tile, just go look at the standards book, because she wants the grout to be this way. She wants the tile. You can pick whatever tile you want that works for the space, but you're going to pick it from these categories. And she has that for every single thing. And I realized that I really have that for the podcast. I had that back end. I want that the shows connect. If there's a lesson in one show, I want you to mention the other. And I give them that. As I'm taking my notes, I'm also writing what it comes to me. Oh, this show is good for that. This show is good for that. Blah, 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 blah. So all the value that I think is in my intro outro is still in the intro outro, and someone else is creating it, and then I'm LuAnning it, and it's amazing.
Yes. And so the process that you're referring to is that before we ever worked together, you shared with me, you have a very specific note-taking process. Like a specific thing goes in the upper right-hand corner and the left-hand corner, and the notes. Like you had developed this, and so you already had this like hidden treasure tool system, standards, and it was being used for yourself, but we were able to reuse it for your new writer.
Right. And that's when you have your business systemized. You can teach it and, have other people step in faster, more efficiently at a higher level of execution. Because for me, it developed because I might interview you today, but I might not put your show up for 3 months. And I found in the beginning, looking at my notes was like looking at, I don't know, something from hieroglyphics. I was like, what the heck was this? So over the weeks and months, I was like, oh, information like this goes on this part of the page. Information like this goes on this part of the page. Information goes on this part of the page. And so it evolved into a very process, right?
Exactly.
So yes, it was so amazing. And if you're listening, I'm curious if you're saying to yourself, what? Like she didn't write that one. She didn't do this one. I would never let it go. To your point, the CEO still has to have the stamp of approval. At the end of the day, this is my baby. This is my brand. I live and breathe it. I love it. I love it like I can't tell you how much I love what this podcast has created in the connection of human people, me and you, our other co-authors, the listeners, the people that I meet at the live events. And I truly, truly believed that I could not let go of that task. And you really pointed out to me, if you were going to spend 18 hours a week for the rest of your life in this task, how the heck do you think you are going to execute all of these other ideas that you have to enhance your listeners and their businesses? And that was the boom. It was like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm not going to just one day get another whole day a week or 2 more days a week. It's never going to happen. And so just like an interior design firm, really can continue to elevate their design and elevate their clients and the client experience and continue to put out really beautiful rooms and spaces. I was like, I can do that too. And I have to tell you, I love the writers that we found. And, once Deb found one, then she found 2. Then interestingly, it turned out that one of the listeners of the show, turns out that she's not an interior designer. She's actually a writer. and she said, I love your show. Could I write for you? And I was like, our universe, seriously right now with this, right? Like once you open up your mind and your heart to the possibilities, then now the confirmations and the reinforcements of my beliefs were coming in the other way. Right, Amber?
Yes. And I remember you telling me, like, she's a listener. Like, she's listened to so many episodes. She knows my voice. And I was like, and she was there the whole time.
And she was there the whole time. Yes.
And she was there the whole time. She was waiting not that she knew she was waiting, but it was waiting for you to shift what was possible and thinking differently about this thing that I guess I was a dog with a bone, not wanting to let go of, challenging you to find a different way. LuAnn, the thing is we could have tweaked a lot of things and, we're not done. Like we can still tweak more things, but were we going to get back 18 hours? Like, were we going to get out back like blocks of 2 to 4 hours? No, like this was the thing that was going to make the biggest impact.
Right.
Once you reclaim that impact, now you're going to have the bandwidth. You don't know this yet because we're not done, but now you're going to have the bandwidth to go back and reevaluate so much else. One, because you have the time to reevaluate, but two, because you've just proven to yourself that when you reevaluate doing things that are just normalized, like I've always done it that way, then you're going to look at everything with a fresh perspective in your business.
You know, you are 1,000% right about that, because the fact is when you have an aha moment of this magnitude that you learn, this was not easy. I hope that's what you're hearing in this show.
Yeah.
This was not easy. I really fully believed that something in the show would suffer if I did this. And I would not accept that. I would work a 14-hour day, 7 days a week before I would accept that. That's just as simple. I made the commitment to do this, and every day doing this really feels amazing. And so
Right.
It wasn't 5 years into it almost. I'm not at the point where I'm like, oh God, I have to do another interview. I'm like, yes, who's on the deck for today? You know what I mean? It's like, I love it. But the thing was, to your point, it was not sustainable at that amount of time. And the thing is, the truth of the matter is, it does not take the writers the same amount of time it takes me. First of all, they are professional writers. Second of all, they're not emotionally attached to the content. Now, I can tell by the output that they have attachment and they have respect and they have care, but they're not doing the rabbit hole stuff that I'm doing. You know it in your design firm. If you are going to sit there and design something, you can spin it around and tweak it and let's change the fabric and should I use that knob? But if you have a trusted, talented designer in your firm that brings you a completed design, you don't throw the whole thing out. You just make it a tiny bit better because it's your firm and it's your vision. But it is so possible now without looking at a blank screen, the way I looked at that blank Word document and you looking at the blank floor plan. It's just come in and do that superpower. And when you have a fully fledged professional under you, these writers, I know they're not taking 4 hours to do this, right? Because they can come in, they assess the information, they assess my notes, and they get to work, and they don't overthink it, and they don't say, oh, I left out about that episode.
Right.
Because when I remember an episode that really would make the point, I'll scrap the whole darn thing and start over again. Oh no, this is so much better.
Oh my gosh. So LuAnn, you're actually bringing up another point. I'm just going to kind of tease it out to your listeners is when we're looking for reclaiming time, one place is obviously where you're spending the most amount of time. That's the strategy we went with for you. But another strategy is to ask, what are the activities that you are feeling the most resistance with? And resistance can come from the stories you tell or emotional attachment. And when there's resistance, then you're making that task take so much longer and maybe even avoiding it when your business needs that activity done consistently. And so when I find a business owner that is having that challenge, I'm also looking there as like, okay, we can work through the challenge. That's an option. What does that look like? Like the mindset of it, like what's that resistance? Or we can outsource pieces of it that you are feeling that resistance to because the overall business is regaining efficiency. And we have to make decisions both for the business owner and your own time, but we're also making decisions for what does the business need. I'm always asking that question because as small business owners, we kind of like to mesh those together. And when we really see ourselves as, okay, what do we need? So what does LuAnn need? She wants more exercise, more balance, more downtime. What does the business need? The business needs LuAnn to be able to bring on this university and to do a book launch and to do LuAnn Live. So when we weigh those, now we're making decisions from what is the most efficiency for the business as well. And sometimes it's pulling the owner out of things that there's stories around or resistance.
Yeah, no, it's true. And just to piggyback on that, the other aha lesson of this journey with you is that the intro outros for the 2 and then now 3 episodes was always happening on Saturday and Sunday. And that's why I was working, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours on each of those days, because that is the very last day I can do them in order to get the shows out. And so I had this, feeling of, this is going to take so long. I've got 16 emails I've got to do. I've got to make this conversation. I have to write this article for Window Fashion Vision. I have to do another part of the book. I have to do this. Okay, so I can't do the shows right now. And then it became, okay, sweetie, this is D-Day. And I was having D-Day every Saturday and Sunday. And so that was another thing that you uncovered. It's like, what do you keep putting off? Now, I never would put it off not to do it, right? I don't care if I'm till 11 o'clock on Sunday night. It's going to get done. The lady's going to do the work. But it was also that combination of, this is a lot of time. It's very important to me, yet why is it this thing that I'm always pushing to the curb? And there was a little, aha in there too, that was part of the process of me finally being open to finding a solution is really what happened, right? I was finally open to finding a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not going to be a surprise. Like you're not, now that you have your writer, suddenly going to 5 days. Like I know you too well for this, right? So that's not going to happen. But what happened is we're relieving you from very hard due dates. So now if you get inspired and you want to, have a Saturday morning where you're working on a project that brings you passion and you're excited about, but you're not hitting a looming deadline of Sunday at midnight, that feel better for you?
That's
and
right.
Does that feel better to be able to cut out at noon and do a few hours instead of having to do, 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday? So you're going to just have more options with how you're spending your weekend. I don't for any moment think that it's going to be just no work. But we also want to make purposeful action of, well, what else are we going to put in there as holding spots? Probably a run, probably yoga, probably like what are those things that have been squeezed out? Let's get those back in, and then ask yourself for fun, like what do I want to work on my business? Mm-hmm. Because LuAnn, we get into business because we actually love what we do.
Right.
Like for many of us, this is the thing. I remember a few years ago, my coach asking me what hobbies I had. And I'm like, hobbies? My business is my hobby. Not because I didn't have balance, but I was like tooth and nail saying like, no, like I love this.
Right.
Like a hobby for me would be to learn a new skill set on the weekend. Like that sounds fun. That would serve my business.
Right.
And that's for many of us that thing. And so now if it's something you're choosing to do on a weekend versus having to do, what is your relationship with your business now? Your relationship is, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the interviews. I enjoy working on these projects, and you're not having to hit deadlines and push other things out that you may or may not want to do on the weekend.
Yeah, I know. You're amazing. You're remarkable. I have gotten so much value from you over these last several months. And I know that more is, you said it a few moments ago, with one big, huge breakthrough moment comes another, because on the heels of it, it really becomes a little, for me, what it is you want to say it becomes a priority or addictive is really the word that came to my mind, of figuring out other ways that I can task other competent, skilled experts to do things for me so that I can recoup the free time. But the truth of the matter is I'm only going to create more things with that time. I know I am. But the difference is what you also just said a moment ago. Now, when I'm working on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's by choice. And if my husband walks by and says, do you want to go for a bike ride this minute? I don't have to say, I have to finish editing this show and write the intro, outro. How about this minute in 3.5 hours?
Right.
Now I can be like, oh, well, I was really enjoying doing my forecasting for LuAnn Live, but yeah, I could do that later. I could do that tomorrow. Let's go for a bike ride. Whole different mindset, whole different world. Because now usually what happens now when I get on the bike and I'm riding, because I've just come from doing some little brainstorming and working on my business, now I'm even getting more ahas and more. I come back and I'm like, whoa, Another big idea. Love it. Let's write it down. Right. So it is just, what I say all the time. You know that even the client that you assess the most, that has maybe the most taste and the best ability to put patterns and colors and shapes together from a lay person's perspective of all the clients you still know that no layperson can replace your value and your expertise in having done floor plans and product selections and specifications and everything for the life of your business and the career that you're in. You are the expert, and you know what you're doing. And when you work with somebody who knows what you're doing, it is mind-blowing. And so, Amber, you are the expert on productivity, and you know what you're doing. And I have benefited so much, and I'm so glad that we cross paths and that each of the people listening, all of my friends listening, are going to be able to, see your information in the book. And of course, they don't have to wait because you have your own podcast. So tell everybody how they find you, followed you, and get involved in what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, LuAnn. And I just want to say thank you. When I talked to you about what today's interview would be about, you were absolutely like, yes, because I wanted to serve your audience by pulling back the curtains on something that you had been working so hard on behind the scenes. And I think your audience is going to be forever grateful for sharing all of this and inspiring them to take the action that feels really scary. So thank you for that, LuAnn.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much. So yeah, I have a podcast. It's called Productivity Straight Talk, and you can find it anywhere you're listening to this podcast right now. Just search up Productivity Straight Talk. You can also find out more about how you can work with me and different trainings I have over at theproductivityspecialist.com. And I love hanging out on Instagram, and that is Amber_De La Garza. Please connect with me there and say hi. Jump in my DMs. I want to hear from you if you're listening to this episode, and just, put a face to a name.
Yeah, it's really something. I think you might have been a little surprised that I was willing to do this, but I thought,
yes,
it was just such a powerful aha for me to go through this process. And I think that if you're listening, if you think to yourself, oh, I didn't notice any change in her business, I didn't notice any change in the podcast, then that is the proof that it is possible that you really can up-level your business by looking around you and looking inward first to see what patterns and beliefs and things you are holding on to that don't serve you, but then looking outside for qualified experts that really can help you scale your business, because that's the only way you do it. You cannot scale if you're not willing to look to other experts and people and trust them to be in their superpower. And so I hope that you agree that that we have achieved it.
I do. This is a perfect example of mindset plus strategy. I think those two together is like a secret weapon. And you uncovered both of those for the listeners today, sharing what mindset and thoughts that you worked through, along with applying real strategy that could make the change after the breakthrough on your mindset. So perfect.
I love it. Thank you so much, Amber, for all of these months and for today as well. I really appreciate and value you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for tuning in to this very special episode of Productivity Straight Talk. I sure hope you found that interview and behind the scenes experience that LuAnn had incredibly valuable. Let me share with you what you actually heard happening between LuAnn and I. As her coach, I believe that it is my role, my job, my honor to partner with her and push her and invite her to see things that she would not otherwise see for herself. And that is what happened when I kept pushing and pushing her to look at something that she believed was so true, which was that she was doing her highest value activity and that nobody else could do those aspects of that highest value activity like she could. And when she held on to that, me coming in from an outside perspective and experience challenged her to look at it different, ask different questions, see what was possible. And through that is where the breakthrough can happen. Along with seeing what could be possible or where there's challenges or limiting belief, is there a strategy that you can couple with that to take action? Because just having a mindset breakthrough alone is not necessarily the entire formula. You really want to couple that with solid strategy and then showing up and taking that action. And that is, again, what LuAnn shared with you. So if you are looking for a partner in your business, if you are looking for a coach that can invite you to look at things that you are not even seeing for yourself because you're currently feeling the side effects and the challenges of time management, growing your team, not working your best, not being your most productive, that you know in your heart that your business and you can do more, but you're not sure how to get off that plateau and take it to that next level. Or maybe you are completely happy with the level of business that you're doing, but the cost is too high. The cost is it's affecting your marriage, or it's affecting your health. It's affecting your downtime, your hobbies, having guilt-free time off. Those are very real experiences that many business owners have. And what I shared in this episode was the AND method. Asking different questions about how can you reach those goals in your business and have time off and enjoy a bike ride and have time where you're incredibly present with those that you love. I truly believe that success for all of us is with the AND method. I believe that you can get to the end of the road and reach that financial goal or get your business to the level that you dreamt of. But if you had to do it and pay the cost that I know is too high of not having that balance, that joy, those relationships, if that is you and that's what you feel that you no longer want to sacrifice, then I invite you to learn more about my one-on-one coaching by going to theproductivityspecialist.com/coaching. Again, that is theproductivityspecialist.com/coaching. You can learn more and book a discovery call to see if this is the right next step for you and your business. That's my Straight Talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.